From Wall Street to Main Street, this is Lalate.
It's a big evening of Evenings Lalate with incredible great news about your fourth stimulus check update of 2022. As not one, not two, but three major checks have gone out. A $6,500 check, a $15,000 to $80,000 check, and an MSC check. So we're going to go over all these incredible new checks that have now become law and have gone out, and how you get those incredible checks across the board. We'll start with Build Back Better Act. That is likely to get done in the next 30 days because guess what? There's a potential looming recession. We'll have the latest details on that in the second half of this video. Then we'll go to those big SS300 checks that are gauged based upon interest rates. But is inflation going higher? All the latest details today on the SS300 front. Then we'll be looking at the developing details about the fifth stimulus, the seniors' money, and will that get done later this month? What about the global details about that seventh stimulus? This is student loan debt forgiveness, and it has an inherent deadline of May 2nd. All the latest details tonight on that front. Then we'll be looking at sixth stimulus, which is the Progressive Alliance of Germany, France, and the United States to get a big stimulus package out to battle recession. But did Germany change its mode and its motion on this sixth stimulus front? I have the latest details across the board on this one tonight. Then we look back to what the president has and hasn't done with Vladimir Putin. On the oil front, the president announcing a major oil deal late this last week, but is it the wrong deal? And whatever happened to that Iranian oil deal that was suspected to flood the markets and bring down the price of gasoline to its lowest levels of generation? All the analysis in today's recording. But there's a lot going on in tonight's recording for a big evening of April 2nd, 2022. We'll go over those three checks, $6,500, $15,000, $80,000, and an MSC check that have all now landed. I'll show you how to get it in tonight's recording for Evenings LA. Then we'll be going over the developing details of Build Back Better fourth stimulus, the developing details of fifth stimulus, the seniors' money, the developing details in April for sixth stimulus, the recessionary money, and then seventh stimulus, the student loan debt forgiveness in May. It's a big recording from the shores of Santa Monica, California. The heat is on, and the checks are landing. Are you ready for them? I'm ready to deliver the news about them. And it's a big night. It's a big evening as Evenings LA gets underway. Get your pen and paper ready. It's Evenings starting right now. Good evening, everybody. It's a big night across the land as a big night of checks hit. And are you ready for them? We're going to go over all these checks, A, B, and C tonight. $6,500 check, $15,000 to $80,000 check, and those MSC checks. We're going to go over each and one of them later in this recording. Stay to the very end. We have a lot of checks to go over. If you haven't become a member, go to the top of the chat and become a member right today. But first, we're going to start with the Build Back Better Act with a big move to get it done. And then we're going to go over into that SS300. A lot of developing details tonight. Let's get to everything you need to know. Build Back Better Act. We have a lot of developing details tonight with at least $15,000 to $80,000 of checks in there. We're going to go over the checks first, and then we'll go over the breaking news on why it's likely to get done in the next 2 months. In that first cluster of checks, we have hazard pay, 1 more year of the earned income tax credit. Then we have $4,000 of elder care, $4,000 of care for young children. We got $3,600 checks as well for the young children. Home repairs if you live in a low-income community, $550 checks for the Pell Grant. And then we have the incredible checks for the purchase of a new electric vehicle, $12,500 for the purchase of that car. Plus, we have some nutrition checks in there as well. That is the first of three clusters in the Build Back Better Act, not law, currently in the Senate. And new indications tonight suggest that it could get done in the next 60 days. Now, let's turn to the second cluster of checks where we have a big surprise tonight. In that second cluster, we have more checks. But first, let's look at the add-on. That first add-on is a little bit less than $25,000 for the purchase of your first home. Oh, wow. Got in there via Maxine Waters, the legislator from Southern California. $25,000 for the purchase of your first home, given to the seller in your name at the time of escrow. It's huge. Second cluster, this is where the surprise kicks in. Paid leave, that is a lot of money. It is $1,700 a week if you make $70,000 or more per year. If you make $35,000 or more per year, it is $800 a week. If you make $15,000 or more per year, it's $400 a week. W-2, 1099, you get it. What is paid leave? If you have to stay home from work due to sickness or illness. If you're a W-2 or 1099, you get it. But what if you don't work, then your son or daughter does work? They get it as well if they're part of the household. The second item in that second cluster is money to weatherize your home. But hold up, put your pen up right now because there's a big surprise. The big surprise was March 31st, the President of the United States took that check and took it out of the Build Back Better bill, not a law, and made it law. OMG. It's coming up later in this video. The president has now made that check, the weatherizing home grant check of $6,500, now law. And how do you get it? It's coming up later in this video. Let's go back into the Build Back Better where we were at that second cluster. Well, the second add-on at checks gets even more. That second add-on at checks is a little bit less than $250 billion. A free home health care for seniors and people on disabilities. Huge. Got it in there. Via Bob Casey and Joe Biden. Let's look at now that third cluster of checks. Seniors checks and free internet checks. Farmers checks, independent contractors checks, and then lots of checks for the seniors. Dental checks, vision checks, lowering the eligibility age of Medicare from 65 to 55 checks. And then the Medicaid gap fix, providing a workaround plan. They'll provide insurance to uninsured people in 12 Republican holdout states, which is par for the course when we're talking about adding checks to the Build Back Better Act. The other checks that they vowed they would add in there, of course, you know the answer is MSC. Now, this is forced stimulus, Build Back Better MSC, IRS MSC. Monthly IRS stimulus checks delivered from IRS. Who would get it? The legislators represent to the viewership of this channel that these forced stimulus, MSC checks, would go to the same people who got a third. So single individuals, $75,000 less, you get it. Married couple, $150,000 less, you get it. Family of four, you get it as well. Quadruple it. And if you're on benefits, SSI, SSDI, Social Security or railroad benefits, you get as well. It is not income. It's not taxable. It is going off the most recent tax return. So if that had a direct deposit account on it, that's how you get paid. And how much? Well, they have talked about $2,000 the first month, $1,000 thereafter for up to 6 months. And that, my friends, is the Build Back Better bill. Not law yet, still in the Senate. And those were the MSC IRS checks of Build Back Better for stimulus recon, not law. It differentiates from this, which is law. Yes, this is law. And tonight we're going to go over the incredible checks that are landing. A, B, and C. $6,500 checks became law on March 31st, 2022. $15,000 to $80,000 checks became law on March 4th, 2022. And an MSC round of checks, upwards of $24,000 to $45,000, became law in 2021. C is third stimulus MSC checks. How do you get these three checks? A, B, and C? You stay with me because they're coming up later in the video. We have those details coming up later in the video. But now let's turn to the other breaking developing details, which tonight is getting very interesting. That is interest rates, inflation, and JPAL and your SS300. What is SS300? SS300 was a Joe Biden campaign promise and a Joe Biden platform for his presidency at joebiden.com to raise your benefits up by swapping out COLA for inflation. COLA is your current benchmark. It doesn't move. And if COLA doesn't move, then your benefits don't go up. Inflation, however, is higher and more reliable. Inflation always gives a positive number, and this year it's actually quite positive. In fact, it's the highest inflation number of a generation. I predicted inflation in December 2021 would be 8%. It was. I predicted it was going to be 8% in January. It was. And I'm predicting it's potentially even higher in February. We will see. If Joe Biden made that swap from COLA to inflation right at the time of tonight's broadcast, you get another $200 per month this year, and lifetime, because once your benefits go up, they never go down. So it sounds relatively simple, doesn't it? It is simple until you get to this part of the equation. You can't have inflation up higher indefinitely. You got to bring it down. And who's bringing it down? Jay Powell. The question is Jay Powell going to bring down inflation faster than Joe Biden makes a swap to COLA to inflation? OMG. So let's go to the analysis right now. If Joe Biden made that phone call to the Social Security Administrator right now and swap COLA for inflation, you'd lock in 8% inflation. Highest inflation of a generation. That would be $200 more per month. And if it comes into 4% later this year, at the end of the year, because remember, they reassess your benefits at the end of the year, that'll be another $100. Good so far. Until we bring in Jay Powell part of the equation. Jay Powell is head of the Federal Reserve. His job is to reduce inflation because you can't have inflation up indefinitely. So what are we looking at? Locking in this higher benefits by swapping COLA for inflation right now, and then Jay Powell can do what he wants. You do not want Jay Powell to reduce inflation before Joe Biden makes that swap for COLA to inflation, because guess what? If inflation is at 6%, 5%, 4%, that's not $200 more per month, folks. That's less money. So let's go over the breaking news tonight on the Jay Powell front. There's a lot of breaking news tonight that we never saw before, because I tell you, Jay Powell is a very moving situation. Jay Powell had said in the month of February that he was going to raise interest rates to curb inflation, a quarter basis point in the March FOMC meeting. He did. And he said he was going to stay at a quarter basis point indefinitely. Well, that didn't last long, because guess what happened? Right after that March FOMC meeting, which was about 7 days ago, the Fed governors under Jay Powell said that was too weak. We should have done half basis point. We should have been more aggressive. Did Jay Powell listen to them? Apparently he did, because less than 7 days later after, Jay Powell appeared at a conference and said a quarter was probably too weak for March. We may have to do half basis thereafter. How did Wall Street interpret the comments? How did I interpret the comments? He's doing a half. He said, I might. He is doing a half. But what's the latest breaking news tonight? It's huge for April 2nd, 2022. Number one, Wall Street analysts and myself both agree that Jay Powell will be doing something more aggressive than a quarter basis point in April. And that more aggressive prediction I'm giving you, and that Wall Street is agreeing upon as well, is a half basis point. But hold up, I'm not done there yet. Myself and Wall Street analysts are collectively agreeing that Jay Powell, in our predictions, will do half basis point in April, half basis point in May. The next two FOMC meetings will be half basis point, which is huge, because that would bring down inflation dramatically to potentially 6%, 5%. OMG. That's why Joe needs to make that phone call right today. Have Joe Biden make that phone call before Jay Powell raises interest rates half basis point in 2 consecutive meetings coming up. That would reduce inflation potentially to 6 to 5%. That's not SS200, folks. That's SS150, SS125. That's part one of the equation. Part two of the equation is December. Jay Powell had said a month ago that he wants inflation to come into 4% by the end of the year. That's another $100 for SS100, because remember, they reassess your benefits at the end of the year. Now Jay Powell is looking at 1.9% inflation by the end of the year. OMG, yeah, that would mean then you would get another $20 in December, not $100. So Joe make that swap right now for COLA inflation. But I'm not done there yet. Why? Because there is a lot of major economic data that came out in the last few hours and in the last 48 hours, and it's bad data. Bad data means it shows that the economy is actually shrinking, meaning the economy is not as robust. Let's go over some terminology so you understand what's going on, because this is going to go back to Build Back Better right in a second and back into SS300. If you predict that a number is going to be $10 when it comes out this week and it comes out at $9, it's a miss. If you predict it's going to be $10, it comes out at $12, it's a beat. It got in better than the prediction at $10. If economic data shows the economy is getting worse, then you likely need more stimulus. If the economy is getting better, then you likely don't need stimulus. We saw that throughout 2020, where Mitch McConnell said the economy is doing really well. We don't need it. So what does the economic data coming out tonight show? The economy is not getting better. We need stimulus. Good for Build Back Better. Good for you. Number two, the economic data that came in the last few hours and the last 48 hours is miss, and miss. Oh, and miss. This is Ole Miss all over again. Because guess what? With so many misses, this is good news for Build Back Better and exceptional good news for SS300 because you may not need a half basis point if there's so many misses happening. Let's go over what these misses were and why this is great news tonight. Number one, on Friday, April 1st, the non-farm payroll numbers were released, and it was a miss. Wall Street is looking for 490,000 new jobs created for non-par payroll jobs. It didn't get 490, it got 431,000. It was a miss by nearly 60,000. Ouch. Then, that same day, we were looking for the new unemployment number. Did it improve or did it not improve as it predicted? It was also a miss. They expected the unemployment number to drop dramatically and only dropped 3.6%. Another miss. Then, the day before, we also had a miss. We were looking at new unemployment claims, and those unemployment claims were not as low as we thought. New unemployment numbers actually went higher. These are newly unemployed people, and it surged to 220,000. Then, we had day earlier this week, the GDP number shows how large the economy is growing, gross national product. We are looking for 7.1% growth of the U.S. economy. It was again a miss, 6.9%. Do you see a recurring theme? Yes. Miss after miss on economic data. The numbers are not coming in good. Then we also had the numbers for private payroll. They were a miss on Thursday. Then we had the data that came in for the mortgage industry. The mortgage industry showed that the 31-year fix surged to its highest level since 2018, and that was 4.8%, and mortgage demand plummeted 60% overnight. That is also a miss. We're not done there, folks, with the misses. The misses continue across the board. The numbers on the auto sales this week, major miss. People are not buying cars in the year 2022. The numbers on the housing market this week, miss. Housing starts, which is how many houses are sold this last month, down. Fourth consecutive month down because mortgage rates are going higher. This collectively is all good news for Build Back Better, number one, and then SS300 first. Why is it good for Build Back Better? Because you need stimulus if your economy is not growing. Remember what the concept of third stimulus was. To kickstart this economy coming out of COVID. Well, guess what? We need some more kicking because the economy is not running as strong as we had thought. And that's number one. Number two, a lot of analysts believe that there needs to be more stimulus because consumer savings is not there. Consumers do not have built up savings despite what we initially thought from the third stimulus. They don't have savings saved up. And Joe Manchin potentially understands this. That is why Joe Manchin at a press briefing and then also at a luncheon just days ago said, I'm ready to negotiate with the president. It was then confirmed by Manchin's communication director, who's Sam Runyon. Saying Manchin's always willing to negotiate on behalf of moving the country forward. Manchin clearly understands tonight that the economic data is getting worse by the day. Now let's turn to that SS300 front. Jay Powell has that choice, and that choice is to come in more aggressively on interest rates or less aggressively. If Jay Powell thinks the economy is doing better than it is, he's going to come in more aggressively. Well, there you go. Miss after miss on economic data. Jay Powell absolutely should not be coming in more aggressively. That is actually good news for the SS300. Ultimately, you don't want to guess on the SS300. You want Joe Biden to make the phone call. Hashtag Joe make the call. Make that call, that Social Security Administrator. Swap COLA to inflation. Lock in that $200 now. When inflation is 8%, it may actually be higher than 8%. Why? We have that yield curve inversion. That yield curve inversion is very simple. If you went to the bank today and said, hi, I have a wad of cash. I want to put it away for a rainy day. What are my options? Well, sir, you can get a 30-year CD or a 6-month CD. 30 years, if I put away for 30 years, wouldn't get a higher interest rate? Of course it would. Except right now. Why right now? Because for the first time since 2006, we're at a yield curve inversion. That means recession. So that's why the bond traders are trading up the 10-year Treasury note. Again, why Jay Powell may not come in at half basis point. There you go. Across the board, a lot of developing details on Build Back Better and also the SS300. The great news tonight is that there is not one, there is not two, but there are 3 checks, baby, that are landing. There are 4 stimulus law checks, and they are third stimulus check laws. The President of the United States sat back in recent days and looked at the negotiations of Build Back Better Act, a bill in the Congress, and said, you know what? Congress, I'm going to just do them myself. I'm going to start taking out provisions out of Build Back Better and make it a law myself through my apparent authority in the executive branch, and boy, has he done it. Get your pen and paper ready, because in the second half of this video, we go over these checks. Here's a preview of these checks coming up in the second half of this video. The President of the United States, in the month of February, yanked out of Build Back Better, not one, but two checks, and has now made them law. What are those checks? They are A, B, and C. Number one, the president yanked a weatherizing check out of the Build Back Better Act of $6,500 and made a law on March 31st. I'm going to show you how to get this $6,500 stimulus check in the second half of this video. Then, on March 4th, the president yanked out a $15,000 to $80,000 stimulus check out of the Build Back Better Act as well. He made a law on March 4th. It's now been law for 5 weeks, and viewers have gotten it. Have you gotten it? If you haven't, stay with me. I'm going to show you how to get it in the second half of this video. And finally, the president passed third stimulus last year. This is C. This is an average of $24,000 to $48,000 checks. I'm going to show you how to get it. A, B, and C. Among all viewers, you're going to get at least one of these checks, and some of you are going to get all these checks. How do you get them? They're coming up in the second half of this video. From the shores of Santa Monica, California, it's a big night with a lot of breaking news. Not one, not two, but 3 stimulus checks have landed. They're law and they're paying out. I'm going to show you how to get them. But first, here's a little bit about the community page for members. If you have questions about any of these big sums of money, reach out to them. I'll be back with you in 60 seconds with the latest developing details on that front, these checks, 6 stimulus, 7 stimulus, 5th stimulus, yes, student loan debt forgiveness, yes, SSI reform, yes, the recessionary stimulus caused by Putin, and then my final commentary in the final minutes of this video. Are we in recession, or are we heading in recession? All the latest details tonight, and explain to you where we're going as an economy and what's up next. The big developing details coming up in the second half of this video with those big checks. Get your pen and paper ready. First, during the commercial break, make sure you sign up as a member, and I'll be back with you in 60 seconds with the latest developing details on America's most watched show for prime time and financial news. It's Evenings Lalate. See you back in 60 seconds. With the excitement continues, direct from Santa Monica, California, this beautiful night, this beautiful day. If you want money right now, not 5 days from now, and not 5 weeks from now, then reach out to the community page. The volunteers can help you find that money for rent and utilities. That's at news.la.com/community. The community page features a series of volunteers who are viewers like you. They can help you find rent, utilities, SNAP, food benefits, mortgage assistance, and help you with eviction moratorium questions as well. Their Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram individuals reach out to them and indicate the city and state you're from, and they'll get back to you shortly. That's a community page. Volunteers working for you, viewers helping one another. Stay with LA for more. Join LA Late Daily for the excitement of the new LA Late live daily. The excitement starts on mornings LA Late at 9 a.m. Home LA Late returns at 11 a.m. daily. And then afternoons LA Late at 1 p.m. Join us daily as the excitement continues live from Santa Monica on LA Late. And the excitement continues on a big evening. From the shores of Santa Monica, California, we have big checks on the second half of this video. Very exciting. I'm excited you're here. I'm going to go over all those incredible checks that have now landed. If you haven't gone to them, I'm going to show you how to get them. A, B, and C. Get your pen and paper ready. A big second half. Then we're going to go over the latest developing details about that 5th stimulus. SSI reform, how it happened. The latest developing details on 6 stimulus. That's Putin-caused stimulus. And then we'll be turning to the developing details on 7 stimulus. Student loan debt forgiveness. Plus, we'll be looking back at what happened with Build Back Better Act this week and SS300. And then in the final minutes of this video, I have my prediction of whether this economy is in recession or is heading to recession. A big night with a lot of checks. Let's go over all the incredible details starting right now. What's incredible to know is that when a check lands, I pounce, and so should you. And that's what happened this week. The President of the United States appeared in the White House and had a press briefing about oil. He had a press briefing about oil. During the middle of the press briefing, he said, "Oh, and by the way, I have a $6,500 stimulus check for you called the Weatherizing Grant Check." Excuse me? I immediately got my pen and paper and started taking notes. And that is why you tune into this channel, because I pounce as soon as a check. By the end of that night, that was March 31st, 2022, I found where that check was, and I immediately featured in the membership newsletter for you. Then I found the quote from Brian Deasy, his head of the Economic Council, who confirmed the announcement of the check, and then I got that ready for you as well. This is no different what I did earlier this month when a $15,000 to $80,000 check was dropped in a footnote practically from the White House. I found it, I got the application ready for it, I delivered it to you as a member. That is why this channel is #1 in financial news in prime time. Incredible details. Later tonight's video, we're going to look at what happened to that U.S. deal for Iranian oil. Not covered by the White House, not covered by broadcast news. I couldn't even find the answer. I had to go overseas print news to find the answer. And I have that later coming up in this recording. All right, let's get some checks. Lots of them. 1, 2, 3 checks. Among the 3 checks, every single viewer of this channel will qualify for either 1, 2, or all 3. So get ready. This is where you start to take notes. Get your pen and paper ready. Let's go over each of the checks one at a time. First, we're going to go over the overview of the 3 checks, and then we'll go over each of them slowly, one at a time. The overview is the following. 3 checks have now landed. A $6,500 check landed on March 31st, became a law on March 31st, 2022. A $15,000 to $80,000 check became a law on March 4th, 2022. And a $24,000 and potentially more check became a law in early 2021. So how do you get these checks? Let's look at A, B, and C one at a time, slowly starting right now. Take notes. Here we go. Check number 1, A. A $6,500 forced stimulus check became law just March 31st. First, how much is the amount of money? It averages about $6,500. That's, in fact, the number the President of the United States said during his press briefing. But my research revealed that some states are actually paying a little bit more. So states have the discretion to pay more. One state's paying up to $12,000. Number 2, this was done by the President by executive action. It's a forced stimulus executive action check. Not done by Congress, done by the President. Number 3, what is it called? We got a preview of this earlier in the video. It's called the Homeowners Weatherizing Grant. So, who can get this? Let's go over the eligibility right now. First, the income qualification. Great. Same as a third stimulus check. So, if you make $75,000 less, you can get it. If you make $150,000 less as a married couple, you can get it. If you're on benefits, like you're a senior on Social Security, or you're a veteran on veterans benefits. And finally, if you own a home, you can get it. Yes, this is a homeowner's weatherizing grant. Let's go over some of the questions I got in the last 24 hours. What type of home? Just pounds for now. So do not worry whether it's a mobile home or a single family residence. Every state may differ. Number 2, people have asked about the term weatherizing. What's included? Again, just pounds because states may define it differently. Generally, if you never heard the term weatherizing, it refers to things that the house sustains because of weather. Rain, wind, tornado, fire, hurricane. But different states may define it differently. For example, California doesn't have tornadoes. Oklahoma does. So they may define weatherizing differently based across the board. And then finally, now you see the details. So let's go over how you get it. It's a $6,500 weatherizing homeowners grant check from forced stimulus. When I say the word grant, it means it's free money. You don't have to repay it. It's not income and it's not a loan. It doesn't require a credit check. So how do you get this money? You become a member. Open that membership newsletter and go right in there. At the top of the membership newsletter, it'll have that name, the Homeowners Weatherizing Grant. It'll give you a description. It'll give you the comments from the President of the United States, his actual transcript when he announced it. It'll also feature Brian Deasy, head of the Economic Council for Joe Biden, his comments about this when it was announced. I basically said it was in Build Back Better, and the President took it out and sent it out that day, March 31st. Will the funds run out? I don't think they will, because they're funded in a different way than other items we see on this channel. So I don't think they'll run out. So what do? You open that membership newsletter. You click a link. There will be a link under the Weatherizing Homeowners Grant. The link will send you into a federal website, a .gov website run by the federal government. There you'll find your state. You need to click on your respective state. So when you go in there, you'll have to look to where it says Mississippi. If you live in Mississippi, click Mississippi. Then you scroll down and look or type in the word home weatherizing, and it comes up. There'll be a Mississippi weatherizing grant check. There'll be an Alabama weatherizing grant check. It's one website. You apply, you get funded, you get approved, you get a check. And there you go. All in the membership newsletter. How to become a member? That's coming up in just a second. The second check looks sort of similar, but it is different. The check we just went over was check number A. That was a $6,500 check. Check number B resembles A a little bit, but it's quite different. This is $80,000. It became a law March 4th. So it has been paying out for 5 weeks. It will run out of money, folks. So you don't want to wait to become a member. You don't want to wait to get these checks. You don't want to wait to apply. Let's go to B right now and understand what B is. Get ready to take more notes. Okay, here's B. Amount it pays out, $15,000 to $80,000. How much of you is getting paid on this? Viewers have gotten paid so far because it's been live for 5 weeks. They're tracking a little bit higher, about $66,000. Next, this is law. It is a forced stimulus law Joe Biden did in the executive branch without the need of Congress. And what's its name? For purposes of recording, we're calling it the Homeowners Grant. It looks like the prior one, but it's different because it encompasses a lot more items. First, what's the eligibility? Okay, here it's the same. The eligibility for income is the same. Single individual, $75,000 less, you can get it. Married couple, $150,000 less, you can get it. If you're on benefits, like you're a senior on Social Security or a veteran on veterans benefits, you can get it. And again, it is for homeowners. If you're a renter, stay with me because you are check number C coming up. Third, how do you get it? You want to become a member and go into that membership newsletter. This item in the membership newsletter is right under A. For B, this homeowners grant, it's going to give you the complete name of the whole grant. It's longer than homeowners grant. It's going to give you more about the income qualification. Then it's going to go over what it pays for. This is where it's very different. A was just to weatherize your home, wind, a hurricane, things like this. This one is just to repair your home in general and other things you can use the money for. Incredible. That's why it pays a lot of money. Can you get A and B? Absolutely. Can you get A, B, and C? Absolutely. So when you go into that membership newsletter, you're going to see this. You're going to see a link to go right into a website. It's a different website. It'll start at the national website, and then you'll click your state, like Tennessee on the map. Goes into Tennessee. You pounce and apply on that Tennessee website. Done. Incredible. That is check number B. Huge. Now, check number C is the one that's going to make you excited. It's for nearly every single viewer of this channel because you're either a renter or you're a homeowner. So here's your check. Renters can get it, homeowners can get it, and if you got all those A and B as a homeowner, you can get C as well. Let's go over the incredible details of this one. This is C, and C is quite different in many regards. Let's go over the details of C starting right now. C is an average of about $2,000 a month for 12 months. Yes, folks, it's a monthly stimulus check, an MSC, when it become a law. In the third stimulus package, that's why we call this a third MSC. It's huge. So let's go over the details of what that check is right now so you understand the elements of it. So many details you need to know. What's important to understand is that this check is good and it is actually even great. Let's go over everything you need to know for it right now. That check involves a payout of about $24,000 to $45,000. Second, it is third stimulus. Third, it is an MSC. Now, when this became a law, the viewers of the channel initially got $45,000. Then they got more money last summer. Then they got money last fall. But in recent days, viewers have come back and said, no, I'm just going to get a check for 12 months. And that's what they're doing. They're averaging $2,000 a month for 12 months, $24,000. So where do you get these incredible sums of money for these MSC checks? Is it a website? This is where it's different than A and B. A and B was going to one website. C involves using your telephone. So where do you use the telephone? Who do you call? Let's go over the details right now. You're going to call your city hall, your city housing authority, your county hall, and your county housing authority. And the keywords you're going to say are rent assistance because of COVID, mortgage or utility assistance because of COVID. Now, you use those exact words. You don't use different words. You don't ask, hi, I'd like to buy an MSC. Hi, I'd like to have some MSC. No. You don't use incorrect words. You use these words. Now, if you became a member, you got new benefits because guess what? So far, I featured 6 places to reach out to, but there's actually more than 6 places. If you're a member, you got the nonprofits as well. You want to put multiple applications on file, and you want to reach out to all of them. Here's what you need to know is that when you're a member, you actually also get the nonprofits to reach out to, which is about 5 to 6 nonprofits. That brings you more places to reach out to, over about 12.5 places. What's important to understand is that when you're getting these sums of money, you will get about a 50% rejection rate. So for every call, you'll get a yes, and the next call will be a no. Then the call after that will be a yes, and the call after that will be a no. So be prepared for no's because right after that is a yes. Rely on those nonprofits because those nonprofits pick up of the sums of money. They're featured in the membership newsletter. And yes, the average viewer of the channel is getting a lot of money for this. They're averaging about $2,000 a month for 12 months. But collectively, they've gotten about $45,000. Get this money right now. Do not wait. Get this money right now. You need to pounce and get these big sums of money. The details tonight are that 3 checks have now landed. 3 different checks for 3 different magnitudes. Let's recap. The first check was $6,500 check for the weatherizing grant for homeowners. Became law on March 31st. Then a separate application for the $15,000, $80,000 homeowners grant check became law on March 4th. Finally, the MSC checks. That is not a website application. It's calling on the phone, being paid out since January 2021. How do you learn about all this? How do you become a member? You want to become a member right tonight. Become a member by going under this video right now and clicking the link to become a member. Go on the top of the chat and becoming a member. The membership newsletter is delivered Monday through Friday, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time via YouTube alerts. You want to make sure your YouTube alerts are turned on. So go to the front of this channel and make sure you hit the bell, turn it to all on, and make sure you have alerts set to be received. Make sure you're also subscribed to this channel, and then watch for that alert that comes 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Monday through Friday, and open that membership newsletter. Become a member today and learn why thousands of people on this channel are getting big checks across the board. Now, we're just getting started, folks, because those are the 3 checks law right now and paying out right now. But there's other checks on the horizon. We're going to go over each of those checks right now. The first one I want to touch on first is really right in front of us. It's May 2nd. It's 7th stimulus. 7 stimulus has been given a May 2nd deadline. Why? Because the President of the United States has admitted he has 3 choices. Those choices confirmed by Ron Klain, his chief of staff. Those choices are by May 2nd to make a determination on the future student loan debt. When the pandemic hit initially, student loan debt was frozen, so you did not have to repay it. Well, guess what? It becomes unfrozen on May 2nd, 2022, unless the president does something. The president has 3 choices. I'll tell you the 3 choices. This is from the president's mouth, and I'll tell you my prediction what he's going to do. Choice number 1, do nothing. Lift the moratorium until you start paying back your student loan debt. I don't think he's going to do that one. That's number 1. Number 2, keep the moratorium past May 2nd and say, I need a little bit more time to look at the situation. I think this is a possibility. And number 3, I've looked at the situation enough. Congratulations on forgetting you the student loan debt starting today. I think this is becoming a bigger possibility tonight. Why? Because the education secretary under the Obama-Biden administration has been talking vigorously about this through the press. He says Joe knows that he can forgive it. We made this law with Barack during the Obama-Biden administration. The law allows the executive branch to forgive student loan debt, and he has the legal authority to do it. Moreover, if he's worried that he doesn't, who's going to do it? The Republicans do not have enough senatorial votes to undo it. Wow. So I really do think it's going to be option number 2 or option number 3. That is 7 stimulus. What about 5th stimulus, the SSI reform? This is likely coming on the horizon, but you really want to get that lock in right now. We don't have inherent updates about 5th stimulus tonight, but you want to swap that COLA for inflation right tonight because the inflation is so unpredictable, as is J-Powell across the board. Forced stimulus is likely to go to a head in the next 30 to 60 days. Why? Because now you have really bad economic data coming in. You have a lot of misses. You saw all those misses in that economic data. And with all those misses, the data supports that Build Back Better needs to be done. Remember how Mitch used to say in 2020, Mitch McConnell, the economy's too good. The economy's not that good at the moment. And guess what? Later in this video, I'm going to tell you how bad it actually is. So that brings us then to the last equation, which of course is 6 stimulus. 6 stimulus tonight, folks, gets really fascinating. And this tees up my recessionary discussion later in this video. What is 6 stimulus? First stimulus was for COVID. Second stimulus was to be for COVID. Third stimulus was coming out of COVID. Fourth stimulus coming out of COVID. 6 stimulus is caused by Putin to battle recession. How did it form? Where is it tonight? And where is it going? I have a lot of breaking news on this front tonight. Number one, it was formed the first week of the invasion of Ukraine by Vladimir Putin. It was formed to be the alliance of Germany, France, and the United States. When Anthony Blinken, your Secretary of State, reached out to them and said to them, get off of Russian products, including Russian oil, guess what they initially said? They said, no, Anthony, we're not. That was Germany. If you never heard it before on this channel, I'm going to say it tonight. Germany does not subscribe to the type of economic policies the United States does. So when Germany said no, that's sort of what Germany would normally say. But Blinken pushed back. And by week 2, week 3, the trifecta was formed. The United States, Macron in France, and the Chancellor of Germany agreeing to get off of Russian products. How would they get off of those Russian products? By debt spending, raising national debts and giving stimulus to their citizens because no one can afford $4 of gasoline in the pump through the month of May. We go in recession. No one can afford a $7 loaf of bread through the month of May. We go in recession. So that was where we were before this week. A trifecta, an inherent date. The inherent date was early April because we were waiting for Macron's re-election in France. If that was going to happen, then we had the Progressive Alliance, Macron, Germany, and the United States. And then things got weird. What happened? Earlier this week, Germany said, no, we're not getting off of Russian products. OMG. It was a big shocker. Germany changed course and went back to what Germany does best, think differently than we do. Germany says we're not getting off of Russian oil. We're going to continue to buy Russian oil. Okay, did that mean that 6 stimulus was dead? It was not meaning the 6 stimulus was dead. But then the president on March 31st had a press briefing. Remember that oil press briefing? He said, I want to give you my idea about how we're going to solve the energy crisis, how we're going to bring down the price of gasoline at the pump. I'm going to release some gasoline from the strategic reserves, 1 million barrels for 6 months. Here you go, hallelujah. I immediately looked at him and thought, wait a second, didn't we have a deal with Iran? We had a deal with Iran just a week ago. We had a deal with Iran that Germany and France negotiated on our behalf for nearly months after months, 15 years in the making, the JCPOA, where Iranian oil was going to flood the international market, bring down gasoline to its lowest price level in an entire generation. So I watched that press briefing, writing down quickly that $6,500 grant check, and I thought to myself, why is the president even releasing gasoline if he's going to get the Iranian gasoline? Folks, this is why you tune into Evenings LA. Because the president didn't even mention Iran. I couldn't even figure out what even happened in the Iranian deal. And so I had to actually go to international news. I had to go to buried international news to see the update on the Iranian oil situation. And here we are tonight. First, before I go into that oil, let me tell you where 6 stimulus is tonight. Based upon those comments from Germany, it looks like Germany may not be on board for 6 stimulus package. That doesn't mean they couldn't revert later on. That doesn't mean that we're not doing one, because guess what? We need to do one. Here's what the equation is. $4 of gasoline at the pump, through the month of May, you go into recession. A loaf of bread, $6 a loaf, through the month of May, we go into recession. That's why you need a 6 stimulus package. In addition with the elements of China, supply chain, Russia, potential default April 4th for 2 principal debt repayments, you need a 6 stimulus package, or the U.S. economy goes into recession. Or are we in recession? More about that in a second. So what did the president say during that press briefing, and where did this get sort of dicey? He said on March 31st, I'm releasing 1 million barrels of oil from the strategic reserves per day for 6 months. That'll solve your energy crisis in the United States. Translation, incorrect. It doesn't. Here's my analysis tonight. What the president said in that announcement about oil absolutely does not work. And I can't imagine who told him that it would work. The way that oil, wheat commodities work is the following. They are bought internationally. And when there's a shortage of them internationally, the price goes up internationally. And until the shortage is solved with more products internationally, the price continues to go up internationally. So when we're looking at oil, for example, and there's a shortage internationally, and you ramp up release of oil domestically in just the United States, the price is still going to be high in the United States because the price internationally is high because there's a shortage internationally. Let's say you have 20 countries and one country releases 10 extra barrels, but all the other countries haven't. There's still a shortage internationally. What did the president say about this, actually? He said, well, we're releasing 1 million barrels of strategic reserves. We're going to go down the price. We're not domestically. Then he said, and I've leaned on my domestic Western allies to release part of their strategic reserves. Untrue. It's untrue. Number one, they don't have strategic reserves. Many of them, like Italy. Italy doesn't have oil wells. They have olive oil wells. They literally do not have oil wells. They have no strategic reserves. Other countries, like Germany, do not have the oil reserves we have, so they have nothing to release. So when the president says that other countries are doing the same thing as we are, so we're all going to bring it down, untrue. Number two, the international reaction to the news was not good. The price of Brent crude, which is the international price of gasoline, did not go down dramatically on the news, which the president thought was great news. I thought it wasn't even going to work. So that is where that situation is right tonight. Whatever happened then with oil and Iran? That is the deal to solve the situation. This is why you tune to this channel, because this was not a story that anyone could normally find. And I had to really search high and low to find this story. I wanted to know what happened to the U.S. deal with Iran on oil. It was less than 7 days ago that Germany and France, on our behalf, were in Vienna negotiating a deal with Iran that was 15 years in the making, the JCPOA, where Iran would end its nuclear proliferation and we would end our embargo of their oil. They would provide for world economies, our allies and us, 1.5 million barrels of gasoline per day by December and 500,000 starting right now this week, bringing down gasoline to its lowest price level of generation since of a generation. And then, no deal. When did it become no deal? So I had to find the answer, and I found it for you. EU Foreign Policy Chief Joseph Borrell, in a buried news article overseas, said that the JCPOA, it's not getting to an end. The deal is not coming to an end. It would be a shame not to reach some sort of agreement when we thought we were so close to reaching one, but I cannot guarantee that we'll reach an agreement. Wow. Somewhere along the way, the Vienna deal fell apart, and the president went to the press in the Oval Office and said, I have a solution. He never mentioned Iran because he didn't have Iran. He didn't have a deal. Here's the problem. The president's approach for oil is not going to work, and that the price of gasoline is going to stay high. It's going to stay high at $4.24 a gallon, and we're going into recession with that element, if we aren't already. More about that in a second. Number two, you can't just fix the gasoline in the White House. You also have to fix the wheat and grain. The wheat and grain is sending us into recession, and will send our partners, allies, into recession actually potentially faster than us. Let me go to the analysis of this one. Very similar to oil. When Vladimir Putin invaded the Black Sea region of Ukraine, where tonight he's trying to make advances against Odessa, as he's done since day one, the farmers of Ukraine have not been able to harvest their wheat and grain. The Ukrainian wheat and grain is critical for that entire region, Middle East, Asia, because it's a major provider. For example, Egypt, 80% of all their wheat comes from this area of Ukraine. Guess what? The farmers aren't harvesting it. Guess what? There's no wheat for the season, and even worse, no wheat for next season, because they're not preparing the soil. They're defending their country. And if the soil is not prepared for next season, it may actually be worse as Putin continues to cluster bomb in the entire region. So suddenly we have a wheat shortage. You know what I'm about to say. If there's a wheat shortage internationally, the price of wheat in the United States will go up. Well, it has. If you remember this channel, you've seen the data in the newsletter. I feature the price of wheat and the price of corn in the newsletter Monday through Friday. It's at 10-year highs. Unsustainable. Can you afford $7 a loaf of bread? Of course you cannot. Can you afford a $5 bag for cereal? Of course you cannot. And guess what? My prediction is it's going to get worse. Joe Biden has done nothing with this, and the farmers aren't going to lose the barn. And I got to tell you why I think the farmers are going to go higher. on their prices. U.S. farmers are already charging more because they have to compete with the international price of wheat. But tonight I'm going to tell you that I think the U.S. farmers are going to go even higher on their price of wheat, which will drive up your loaf, drive up your breakfast cereal. Why? Because if you're a farmer, your costs to farm wheat are going through the roof, and you're not in the business of losing your business. What are the data? What is the economics? Let's go over the details right tonight. If you're a farmer, you're driving this. It's not a Tesla, it's a tractor trailer, and it runs on oil, and that oil is getting expensive, a lot more expensive. You can't afford that expense. Number two, if you're preparing the soil, you need manure, and it comes from the biggest shoveler of manure in the world, Vladimir Putin. No joke, that's what his business is. And without that manure, the price of manure is going up. So now you're a farmer, your oil's going up, your manure is going up. What are you going to do? You're going to charge more for wheat, and what is the consumer going to do? Pay more for a higher price a loaf of bread? No, you're not. You can't afford $7 a loaf of bread indefinitely. You're going into recession. We're not even into the next parts of the equation, which we're going to see in the next few days. April 4th, we're going to see whether Vladimir Putin defaults on 2 principal repayment debts. If he does, U.S. exposure to those debts could be huge. U.S. banks may have major losses and potentially may have major closures if they have big investments in Russian debt that goes devalued or goes to default or credit worthiness this coming week. Boy, we're just getting started. Here's what you need to know tonight, is that I believe 6 stimulus will happen in the United States. I don't know about the trifecta, Germany and France, as of the time of this recording. But I don't know if the idea of 6 stimulus, which is to prevent recession, is going to work. I think that 6 stimulus is going to happen. I don't know if it's going to work. In fact, I don't really think it will work. Why? Because tonight I'm reporting that I believe we're in a recession already. A recession is an environment that often manifests itself geographically first, certain U.S. states before others, or industries before others. For example, let's say it may be the pharmaceutical industry before the banking industry. Tonight, in my opinion, 2 industries are already in recession. Number 1, the housing industry. Number 2, the auto industry. Where do I think we're going? I think we're going to have more industries going into recession. And that brings us back to Jay Powell and Joe Biden. Number 1, a lot of analysts in the last 24 hours are saying the following, and I'm agreeing. Jay Powell has only 2 choices. Does he want lower inflation or does he want recession? You can't have both. What are they saying? They are saying the following on Wall Street tonight, that if Jay Powell reduces inflation at the rate that he thinks he's going to do, he's sending us into recession. So either Jay Powell leaves inflation alone, or he reduces it and sends us into recession. Here's why they're saying it. So I explained to you what their notion of it. You come in too aggressively by raising interest rates. When the economy is already missing on all this economic data, we close in on amongst ourselves. Our economy contracts, our GDP shrinks, we shrink, we start to lay off people, we start to have hiring freezes, suddenly we go into recession. I agree with them. So Jay Powell has that pivot that he may not pivot correctly. Then we have everything about the Biden administration, which is really not address all these commodity issues. Wheat, grain, soybean, corn. Does not have a clear path on the oil front. And I got to tell you, I've already told you since day one of the invasion, you cannot pay more than $4 a gallon at the pump. The national average featured in the membership newsletter Monday through Friday is still the same. That national average for gasoline is still $4.24 a gallon. I've been having that number across the board for day after day, week after week. You cannot afford that $4.24 a gallon. Want to know what the national average gasoline is with the price of wheat and grain? It's all in the membership newsletter Monday through Friday. You can't afford that indefinitely. So where are we tonight? In my opinion, we are already in a recession for 2 industries. First, auto. 2021, everyone buying cars. Going into a dealership. Dealer wants $10,000 over sticker. You pay it. Say, hey, there's a shortage of cars. At least that was the story they ran. And you bought it. And you loved it. Not anymore. Cars are not selling. in 2022. Auto sales are plummeting because, number 1, no one's going to overpay for a car. Number 2, you're worried about inflation. You go to the market. You have less money to going out of the door because you had to pay more money for bread and milk. And number 3, you don't like the price of gasoline. Number 4, you don't have that built up consumer savings. Then the housing, much more evident of recession. Housing is based upon purchase, repair, building, and selling, and also mortgage. First, you go to buy the house on a mortgage? Can't afford a 5% mortgage. This is why these mortgage refis are plummeting 60%. No one can afford a 5% mortgage. And this is why the housing starts are down 4 consecutive months. This is the number of people buying homes. Down 4 months in a row, yes. No one can afford a home at 5%. Now, let's say you're on the other side of the equation. Let's say you bought a home at the high point of 2021. Oh, it's COVID. Everyone wants a home. You'll make a big investment. You'll make a big flip on the money. Now you go to sell in 2022. No one shows up to the open house. Then what are you going to be doing? Well, the repairs to make on the home, maybe when you try to flip it, are costing a lot more. The supply chain, the labor costs, bringing up all those costs, you're going to make less of a profit. Then, if you're a home builder, the home building is causing a big supply chain disruption. So whether you're a buyer, a seller, or a home builder, it's all inverted. As many people now say, it's a bubble. It's a bubble about to burst. It's not a good market in which people bought too high, thinking it's a great market, and where people who are in cannot potentially get out in about a month or two from now, and people are not entering because they cannot afford a 5% mortgage, and the mortgage rate is going up higher. It's a bad market. 2 industries I think are already in recession. There we go. What's next? In my opinion, I believe other industries are heading right into them. This is how recessions form. They start with one industry before another. Then they start geographically. You remember the recession of the 1990s. It started on the East Coast in New York with the housing industry and the rental industry. And the West Coast was totally fine for nearly 6 months. Totally fine. But East Coast went into recession 6 months before the West Coast. East Coast came out of the recession 6 months before the West Coast. That's how it happens. For now, this is why this channel exists, because what my job is to do is to find you every check when it becomes live. And this is why when the President of the United States talks about oil, but suddenly drops in, oh, by the way, I have a $6,500 check for you, I immediately search it out and immediately deliver it to you in the membership newsletter. When the president rolls out a $15,000 to $80,000 check that is covered nowhere except in a small press briefing, I immediately deliver it to you. March 4th, it went in the newsletter. The $6,500 check went right that night into the 331 newsletter and every newsletter then since then. And when MSC checks are landing, I'm immediately pouncing and getting them as well for you across the board. What you need to do is that you need to pounce as well. You want to pounce because all these checks you need right now are going to be even more needed if we had a recession. So become a member. The membership newsletter is critically important for you. Become a member. The link is at the top of the chat and in the pinned comment. Get that newsletter Monday through Friday, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, delivered via the YouTube alerts, not by email, not by waivable check, not by smokescreen, not by waivable pings. Delivered by the YouTube alert system Monday through Friday, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Go to the front of this channel, hit that subscribe button. Also make sure you hit the bell at the front of this channel, turn it to all notifications so you have it set to send all notifications across the board. And from the shores of Santa Monica, California tonight, we sit and wonder what will be the future of that big student loan debt forgiveness of May. What will be the future of that 6th stimulus? Will the U.S. economy get this back on track and prevent a potential recession? What will be the future of that oil prices and those wheat prices? What will be the future of Jay Powell and those interest rate spikes, or will he pivot based upon these misses and misses and misses of economic data? And what will be the future of you and me? For you and I, we know the future. We're pouncing, getting every check we can, day in, day out. When a check goes live, I announce it, and you get it as soon as you can. Become a member, get these incredible checks, because as a recession may be looming on the horizon, you need every check you can. That's why you need Evenings at 8. Every night at 5 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, from the West Coast to the shores of the Black Sea. Stay informed, stay focused, and stay with LA for more.